In other words, if Al-Qaeda or their associates are making calls into the United States or out of the United States, we want to know what they're saying.
Did not get to the nut of the problem.
That's correct, sir.
And is it also true that because of technology, the way it works, without going into anything that is classified, you specifically target an individual you reasonably believe to be a foreign target outside the United States?
Yes, sir.
And do that without a warrant?
That's correct.
And you cannot beforehand know with any degree of certainty whether that person is going to have some conversations into the United States.
That's correct.
And if you were required, because of that possibility that there may be a conversation into the United States, communication into the United States, you had to get a warrant in each and every case, it would be impossible for you to do the job you've been asked to do.
That's correct.
And you say that because, in fact, it proved impossible to do the job you were supposed to do.
Yes, sir.
And we were excluded from obtaining crucial terrorist-related information from targets overseas that, under the reading of the 1978 law, under the technology that existed at that time, we would have been able to reach without a warrant.
That's correct.
So that what you have attempted to do and what we did in this law was to use the same legal construct, which was to take outside of the requirement for warrants those kinds of communications that weren't anticipated to be protected by the Fourth Amendment because they were directed at individuals who were foreign in foreign countries.
That's correct.
And that because on occasion, and we're saying occasionally because compared to the number of communications we're talking about, these are occasional communications into the United States at the other end, you have devised a system of minimization which is basically the same minimization we use in criminal cases.
Yes, sir.
And in criminal cases, when we get a wiretap on a suspected mafia member, we target the mafia member, we target the particular means of communications he uses, not knowing ahead of time who he's going to communicate with in the future.
That's correct.
And that in those occasions when he does communicate with someone that has nothing to do with his mafia connection, we minimize.
Minimize.
And you're doing the same thing now.
Yes, sir.
And you had experience minimizing when you were head of the NSA.
I did.
And you feel an obligation both legally, morally, and ethically to
So the whole thing about being texted in my phone without even knowing, I think that's like, is unfair. Because for one, I think it's invading like privacy, because there can be certain things that are being said, not even that has to do with anything with bombing or anything, but every person can hear it, or I didn't intentionally hear it. So for the government to even do that behind people's backs is like wrong. And I think it's like, at some point I understand where they're coming from, it's helping people about the whole bombing thing or whatever, but I also I just think that it's stupid and unfair. So just unfair, just dumb.
So as an American citizen, what do you feel about situations that the federal government can tap into your phone or any other device?
Well, I think it's kind of like crazy that, the government can now legally go in and just have full access to anything that we do or what we say, and I'm always freaked out by it. I don't actually. I send a text to somebody, and that text can be misconstrued and turned into something. And next thing I know, I'm an enemy combatant, and I'm in Guantanamo Bay or something. It's kind of nuts. No, it's not going to go down like that per se. But I think that's really why they're trying to have that type of authority to say that there are a lot of risks or concerns that do threaten our national security in a way that they need to have access to information so they can kind of cut it off at the pass before something crazy like 9/11 happens again. But at what cost? At the cost of our constitutional rights to privacy? I don't agree with it.
Do you feel as though it's right to start at a young age? Let's say with the whole Lower Marion situation that happened. If they decide to go lower than that and to tap into things that a 3-year-old might be able to get their hands on, say an iPad, do you think it's right to tap into something like that, knowing that a younger person is using that?
Well, like I'm a huge fan of the show The Wire, and I recall that they always had to have a warrant to be able to do what they were doing, even to like kind of cut off, you know, the illegal activities like the drug trade, and they still needed to follow some basic guidelines. We need to get some approval from a judge to say, here's a bunch of evidence that says that this person's doing this. If you want to tap their phone, can we have a warrant to do so? And if they didn't have the evidence to produce it, then they couldn't get the wiretap. And then if they did the wiretap, it would be illegal, and then the evidence would be inadmissible. So I don't really understand why that isn't the case anymore. That seems fine to me. Like if you have come up with, you know, some legitimate evidence to say that there's something bad is occurring, something illegal is unfolding, then sure, tap the 3-year-old's iPad. I mean, really? Like,